In 1977, a horrific murder was committed in the then quiet city of Chicago. Teresita Basa, a medical researcher, was found brutally stabbed to death in her apartment. The case seemed to have no leads, but then a chilling turn of events occurred. An unlikely witness, someone who had died, began to speak from beyond the grave. This is the eerie case of Teresita Basa, a murder solved through an extraordinary psychic revelation that shook both law enforcement and the public. Teresita Basa was a 47-year-old medical researcher from the Philippines, living in Chicago, working at a local hospital as a respiratory therapist. On February 21, 1977, Teresita was found dead in her apartment. Her body was discovered by a friend after Teresita failed to show up for work. She had been stabbed multiple times, and her body was set on fire, a deliberate attempt to destroy evidence. The crime scene showed signs of a violent struggle, but there was no sign of forced entry, and nothing appeared to have been stolen. Police were left with no solid clues. For weeks, investigators were stumped. There were no witnesses, no fingerprints, no leads. But the case would soon take a turn into the supernatural. Months passed, and the investigation seemed to be going nowhere. But in a bizarre twist, a breakthrough came from an unlikely source, a psychic vision. Remy Chua, a colleague of Teresita's at the hospital, had no connection to the murder, but began to experience strange dreams. In these dreams, she felt Teresita's presence, and in one of these dreams, Teresita allegedly appeared to Remy and communicated with her. According to Remy, Teresita's spirit revealed her murderer's identity. She claimed that the killer was someone she knew, a fellow hospital worker named Jesse. Remy Chua. In an interview, Teresita appeared to me in a dream, and she was very clear. She told me that it was someone who worked with her, a man named Jesse. She also mentioned that he had stolen some of her jewelry. Remy's message was disturbing, but it was specific. Jesse was a man named Jesse D. Pineda, an orderly who worked at the same hospital as Teresita. Police were initially skeptical of the psychic's claims, but they decided to investigate. They found that Jesse Pineda had indeed known Teresita. They also discovered that he had visited her apartment on the night she was murdered, though he had initially denied it. Upon further investigation, police learned that Jesse Pineda had been a longtime admirer of Teresita, but she had never shown any romantic interest in him. It was revealed that on the night of the murder, Jesse had been at Teresita's apartment, where he allegedly tried to rob her of her possessions, including valuable jewelry. Teresita fought back, and in the heat of the struggle, Jesse stabbed her multiple times and set the apartment on fire to destroy the evidence. The shocking part of this revelation was that Jesse had no obvious motive to kill Teresita. They were not romantically involved, but the clues were undeniable. Teresita's jewelry was missing, and he had access to her apartment. In addition to this, police found that Jesse Pineda had pawned some of Teresita's jewelry after her death. The pieces were identified, further implicating him. The ultimate breakthrough came when investigators found blood evidence linking Jesse to the scene of the crime. When confronted, he admitted to the murder. Jesse Pineda, during interrogation, "I didn't mean to kill her. I just wanted to take the jewelry, but she started screaming, and I panicked." Jesse Pineda was arrested and charged with the murder of Teresita Basa. During the trial, defense attorneys tried to argue that there was insufficient physical evidence to directly link him to the crime. But the revelation from the psychic Remy Chua was key in convincing the jury that the murder was not a random act but a targeted crime of passion. The case went to trial in 1979, and after a lengthy deliberation, the jury found Jesse Pineda guilty of murder. Jesse Pineda was sentenced to 14 years in prison, a sentence that many believed was too lenient for such a horrific crime. But what made this case truly extraordinary was the fact that the murder was solved, not through traditional police work, but through a message from beyond the grave. Jesse Pineda's conviction brought some closure to the case, but the story of Teresita's murder still resonates as one of the most bizarre cases in criminal history. The involvement of the psychic, Remy Chua, raised questions about the role of the paranormal in crime solving. Teresita's case remains one of the most well-known examples of how psychic intervention was used in a criminal investigation. But it also raises deeper questions about the intersection of belief, reality, and justice. Teresita Basa was laid to rest, and her family found peace in knowing that her killer had been brought to justice. But the case remains a fascinating one in the annals of criminal history, where the dead spoke and a murderer was caught. The case of Teresita Basa is a reminder that sometimes the answers we seek are not always found in the traditional ways. Whether it was a message from beyond the grave or simply the persistence of those who loved her, Teresita's death was not in vain. The truth, in the end, was uncovered. But as for the mysteries of the supernatural, they remain ever elusive. Thank you for listening. Until next time.